Top 10 Most Unbelievable Child Survival Stories. On a sub-zero night in Alberta, Canada, in 2001, 13-month-old Erica got out of the bed she was sharing with her mother, opened an unlocked back door, and wandered out into the cold, snowy night. At some point along the way, she fell into the snow and lay there for an unspecified amount of time. Erica's mom didn't realize her daughter was gone until 3 a.m., which is when she plummeted into a mother's worst nightmare. Amazingly, she quickly spotted the toddler lying face down in the snow. When the paramedics arrived, they immediately began reviving Erica's cold, blue body. Problems arose when her limbs were so frozen that a needle could hardly penetrate the skin, and her mouth was so full of ice that breathing tube insertion was nearly impossible. Luckily, the rescuers' persistence led to their overcoming these trials with an 4 in the leg and final success with a tube. Once in the hospital, Erica was covered with a bear hugger blanket, which heated her body from the outside. Astonishingly, her heart, which had been stopped for 2 hours, began beating once again. Erica beat all odds and survived one of the deadliest conditions. In a Bronx apartment in 2017, 2-year-old Audria had become used to sitting on the windowsill, playing on her tablet. The window was, of course, always locked. One day, circumstances changed when her 17-year-old cousin Isabella came to visit. While the two girls were playing in the room, Isabella opened the window to amplify the pattering sound of rain outside. Then, she briefly left the room to grab a slice of pizza from the kitchen, only to hear a loud bang and a following scream from Audria, who had just fallen out the window to an awning 5 stories below. The awning provided the perfect cushioned landing, and the toddler escaped the fall just fine. If the awning hadn't been there, the toddler's crash would have been almost certainly deadly. The little one was rescued by a neighbor, who pulled her inside through a second-story window. Audria emerged from the scene with just a simple bruise on her arm and a smile on her face. How's that for an impromptu skydiving experience? Another mind-boggling modern miracle occurred in Texarkana, Arkansas, in 2016, when a car was sideswiped by a semi-truck that was trying to change lanes. What had originally been a car with 5 healthy people quickly turned into a flipped car with 4 injured adults and a missing 8-month-old. When it was discovered that the baby was ejected from the car, rescuers began hopelessly searching for the child's body. Soon, they heard a small noise coming from a patch of hay in the median. Unbelievably, the baby was sitting there in the storm drain, happily reaching up to the rescuers for them to pick her up. Even though the baby had flown 7.3 meters, 24 feet, from the car due to not being restrained properly in a car seat, she was found with only a minor injury. She left the scene nearly unscathed and would live to see another day. Rarely has there ever been a story more riveting than the Cokeville, Wyoming, elementary school bombing in 1986. When David, Doris, and Princess Young entered the school on May 16, there was one goal in mind: to carry out David's dark plan called the Biggie. This plan included holding all 100-plus children in the elementary school hostage for $2 million each, detonating a bomb that was attached to David, and transporting all the children and money to his new world, where he would be God. Upon arriving at the school, Princess rebelled, ran to pick up 2 other hostages who were being held in a van, and brought them to the sheriff's office to alert authorities to her father's plan. Meanwhile, Doris and David rounded up all the children and teachers into a small room for an assembly, which turned out to be a hostage situation. Everyone sat in a small room, surrounded by weapons, while the teachers tried to keep the students calm throughout the ordeal. Soon, David transferred the bomb from his body to his wife's, allowing him to go use the restroom. While he was gone, Doris accidentally detonated the bomb, engulfing her body in flames and burning many children. David came back and shot his wife while everyone else escaped. David also shot a teacher, who was escaping out the window, in the back. After that, David went to the bathroom and killed himself. The amazing part of this story? While 76 people, including the shot teacher, were injured from the explosion, not a single person died other than David and Doris. In 2017, during what seemed like a normal day, a Florida 10-year-old sat on the shore of Lake in Orange County. However, Juliana's relaxing excursion quickly came to a halt when a 2.7-meter (8.8 feet) alligator jumped into her knee and calf. At first, the girl punched the predator in the face, but her attempt to loosen its grip was no use. Then, she remembered a life-saving fact she learned in Gatorland, an alligator amusement park. Jamming her fingers into the animal's nose, the girl waited for it to lose its breath and then pried its mouth open. After the gator let her loose, the girl jumped up screaming and ran away. Her family took her to the hospital, where she received several stitches for her deep puncture wounds. Other than that, she was okay. Authorities reacted to the attack, caught the alligator, and closed the lake for public swimming for a period of time in order to prevent similar accidents. Luckily, Juliana's calm wisdom came to her rescue, and nobody else was injured that day. It's common for people to commit suicide by jumping off towering bridges, but it's far less common for them to try to include their children in their gruesome deaths. When the Spicken family experienced just that, the outcome was nothing less than a miracle. In 2016, after getting into a heated family argument, John Spicken picked up his 2 toddler boys and drove away from the home. After following Spicken's phone GPS signal, police found his empty car near a popular suicide bridge in New Jersey. At this point, the authorities knew something had gone terribly wrong. In his family suicide attempt, John jumped off the 30-meter (100 feet) bridge, his 3-year-old and 1-year-old sons in tow. The 3 bodies landed in the trees below, missing the river underneath the bridge. Amazingly, the brush cushioned both the boys' falls, and they each emerged alert and alive. While the father died upon impact, the young boys conquered the horrific fall, each suffering just mild concussions. After a young 12-year-old teen gave birth in her Bronx apartment in 1991, she immediately rid herself of her newborn child. Instead of bringing him to a safe drop-off, the mother threw the baby down the trash chute. The fragile infant fell 4 stories and landed amid the rubbish below. Around 9:45 a.m., 2.5 hours after the fall, the maintenance men were about to turn on the compactor when they heard a noise coming from the dumpster. Instead of turning on the compactor, which would have instantly smashed and killed the child, the 2 men decided to call the police. When a patrol sergeant came to check out the scene, he crawled into the small opening of the trash compactor, where he found the feeble baby alive under a pile of newspapers. The baby was rushed to the hospital and treated for hypothermia. He was soon in stable condition. The infant had defied all odds by avoiding injury in his long fall and escaping the crushing blows of the trash compactor. A thundering tornado stormed through Castellan Springs, Tennessee, in 2008, leaving behind a jaw-dropping pile of flattened buildings, raging fires, unending debris, and dead boats. As rescuers scoured the area, their countenances faded as they found 3 corpses, all of which had been flung hundreds of feet from their homes and had become entangled in tree branches. At 1:30 a.m., 3.5 hours after the search for survivors had begun, one of the rescuers found a doll lying face down in the mud. Upon closer inspection, the doll appeared to be alive and was, in fact, an 11-month-old baby. Baby Kyson was picked up by the powerful tornado and flung hundreds of yards away from his flattened duplex, along with his 23-year-old mother, who did not survive the impact. After his silent body was picked up, the frightened Kyson was wrapped up in a coat and sat shivering, a blank stare across his face. Finally, the boy started crying, a huge relief to the rescue team. Upon closer examination, Kyson appeared healthy and basically unscathed. He was taken in by the loving arms of his grandparents, lucky to have survived an unbelievably destructive storm. In 1961, the Duperrault family of 5 took an idyllic Bahamas cruise, which quickly turned into a nightmare. In the middle of the cruise, the captain decided to carry out a sinister plan and kill his wife. His wife, not willing to go down so easily, put up a screaming fight, attracting the attention of the passengers aboard. To cover up his tracks, Captain Harvey not only killed his wife but also murdered everyone else on the ship. Everyone, that is, except for dear Duperrault Fassbender, the 11-year-old middle child of the Duperrault family. While the killing spree was commencing, Dear was safely in her cabin below decks. When she heard the screams, She came out to find the bloody bodies of her mother and brother. The ship was quickly taking on water from the aftermath of the mayhem, so instead of immediately killing her, the captain gave the airline to the dinghy below. He told her he would be right back and was just going to grab something before they escaped. Tyr did not fall for his lies, and instead of surrendering to her own murder, she let go of the line. Harvey never found her and returned to land, telling a tale of a sunken ship. He almost got away with murder. However, he was unaware that Fassbender had actually survived and was fighting for her life at sea. She loved the outdoors, so despite enduring blistering heat in the day and hypothermia at night, she knew she would survive. She had no food or water to nourish her body, but her fighter spirit kept her alive. 4 days into being stranded at sea, Fassbender was rescued and lived, providing a witness to the horrendous cruise murder scene. In 2014, in an almost unimaginable feat, a 16-year-old boy survived something almost no one else could on a standard flight to Hawaii. Instead of buying a coach ticket from San Jose to Kauai, the boy decided to hop the fence surrounding the airport and run to the wheel well of the airplane. While security cameras caught footage of his antics, nobody actually saw him do it in person. After climbing in the wheel well, he endured the 5-hour flight to paradise. Somehow, he managed to make it to Hawaii alive, overcoming sub-zero temperatures at oxygen-depleted heights. He reportedly became unconscious during takeoff, only to wake up an hour after the plane had landed. He completely astonished the ground crew when he emerged and was taken into the custody of welfare services. In most cases, when a person is trapped in freezing temperatures with little oxygen, they pass away within just a few minutes. This boy must have fallen into hibernative state, cooling his body and preserving his central nervous system. Even still, with temperatures reaching -59 to -62 degrees Celsius, -75 to -80 degrees Fahrenheit, his survival in a cramped wheel well is remarkable. He also managed to not be crushed by the landing gear folding back into the plane or fall out of the wheel well, both of which were real possibilities in this boy's situation. Amazingly, his body fell unconscious in just the right position to hold him safely in the landing gear of the plane. After he survived the amazing feat, the boy avoided federal charges and went on to be one of the few survivors to ever overcome a wheel well flight.